What's happening, everyone? Matt here on the Vinyl Head UK channel. It's time for another vinyl appreciation. And today, we're going to look at a band that you may not be as familiar with. Now, I talked earlier this week when I did my Rainbow Rising vinyl video that I wanted to go out and buy some of these classic albums once again. I touched upon having a CD collection, the excitement of listening to those CDs for the first time, but then also restarting a music collection and buying these vinyl for the first time, and the excitement of re-listening to these records for the very first time. And that's what I've been doing with these classic albums like the Rainbow one, like Metallica, Maiden, whatever. But then I've also been delving into some other bands that I'm not as familiar with and, you know, bringing them in. I've very much gone for the sort of ethos that they did back in the 80s, where you'd go into a record store, you'd see this record with this cool artwork and think, I'm going to check this out, bring it back, listen, and, you know, go from there. Now, I kind of don't go it as sort of full on as that. I see something and I'll put a little bit, snippets of it on like Apple Music, but I don't listen to the full tracks, and I just hear a little taste, and then I can spend my money and bring it on in if it's something I think I'm going to like. Now, this band that I've got today is a band that I actually discovered not too long ago. It was on a different YouTube channel. Who were talking about their favourite thrash releases of the last however many years. And they covered this band that I hadn't heard of before. And I like to kind of think that my knowledge with thrash, because it's my favourite subgenre, is, you know, not too bad. But this one had escaped me, and I'm not sure how, because listening to their material, there's a lot of people talking about, especially with their last record, how good that stuff is. So I went out and got their debut record, and it is, wow, I've had it for a while, but I wanted to do it justice by giving it, you know, a good few listens to. This is not a record I could put on once or twice and gauge enough info to bring to you guys. I needed to sit with it for a while. It's a long one. It's 70 minutes. But let me show you it. It's Vektor, Black Future. The debut record from this progressive thrash outfit. It's pretty cool artwork. It kind of blends in with my hoodie, my Gajira hoodie with the black and white camouflage in there. It's pretty cool looking, right? So yeah, I hadn't heard of these guys, which I hang my head in shame about. Like I say, their last record got a lot of good press, and it's just one of those that escaped me. There's 1,000,001 bands out there in our world with rock and metal and that. You're not going to get to everyone, but I'm glad I got to these guys. I just needed a bit of helping hand from another YouTube channel. So this debut record was released in 2009, I believe it was, on Heavy Artillery Records. This is actually a reissue that was put out by Erik. This is one of those records I mentioned before. I went on a bit of a raid of the Earache store, and I went and picked up some Deicide and Municipal Waste. And this came with it as well. I've got the Vektor record. But yeah, this is a 2015 reissue by Earache. Earache picked up on it and reissued and stuck it out. And yeah, I mean, it's, as I say, it's a long one. It's very technical thrash. It's 70 odd minutes long, which is one of the longer records I have, if not the longest. It's a 2 LP set as well. It's far too much music to just put on one LP right there. These guys are from Arizona, but they do draw on some European influence, especially the vocals. I'll come on to all of that, but when I was listening through, the one thing that stuck out was how the vocalist sounds like a very specific vocalist from a European thrash band. You know, if you know this band, have some guesses who I'm going to talk about. You probably guessed already. You probably know if you're familiar with Vektor. Let's look at the artwork. The logo is what strikes me straight away. We have some Voivod fans apparently right here. That is some Voivod style logoing right there with the font and the style. I like the font that Voivod use, and I guess Vektor do, and I guess Vektor are a fan. You can hear the fandom of Voivod in their music as well. Black Future, just basic right there. Let's see what's going on here, because there is a lot going on in this. I've not actually really stopped properly to look at it in masses of detail. I've kind of just got the records out, stuck them on, and gave it a spin. So I'm exploring this artwork for the first time right here, and I don't really know what's going on, if I'm honest. So we have what looks like some broken skyscrapers and some cars upside down and a train derailed and stuff there. And then this big figure, which is coming out. It looks like a man with a kind of weird beard. I don't know. It's odd. Kind of cool, though. Kind of space-age futuristic, which, again, kind of plays into the sound of the band. On the back, we have this stairway up to somewhere. It looks like we're in space. I don't know where this stairway is leading to, but maybe our black future. You see what I did? And then our track listing, as I say, is 4 sides. It's 2 LPs. Earache down here. I think that was pretty cool, though. It stands out. Stands out without being, you know, not in a colorway, but it stands out. Definitely when I go through my records and I see this one. Yeah, it's cool. Like I say, it's the first time I've properly stopped to actually have a real good look at it. When we flick it open, whoa, nearly lost one of the records out there. We have this, it interconnects actually. Well, the light shining, I try and avoid that for you guys. Kind of interconnects, this stairway latches onto this guy's kind of stuff coming out his head. Wow, that's quite cool. What we got, so yeah, I thought we did. We have our lyric sheet in here. And we have lyrics right there. And then the band, cool picture of them on I guess they're being like zombies or something. They look very young here, don't they? Very young, but wow, in crazy established musicians at this point. Very, very good. And thanks and stuff is right there on that, under the picture of a band themselves. There isn't anything on the other side where the second LP is. It's white sleeve, and we have the Earache logo, Vektor, Black Future, and then our tracks. There's only like 3 tracks that side, 2 the other, and whatnot. But yeah, it's got that cool Earache logo right there. The same is on the second one. I don't need to get the second record out. It's exactly the same, just obviously with side 3 and 4, or C and D, whichever one you want to look at. So our track listing itself, side 1, we have Black Future, Oblivion, and Destroying the Cosmos. Side 2, Forest of Legend and Hunger for Violence. Side 3 is Asteroid and Dark Nebula. And then bear with me here. Side 4, Deoxyribonucleic Acid, or DNA, basically. And then Accelerating Universe, that 13.5-minute epic to close off a record. A lot of these track titles have some similarity. I'm jamming this record in. I'm gonna just, so I can't shut it properly. Let's do that. There we go. A lot of these track titles have kind of a theme. It is all to do with space. Kind of, I guess, goes with the artwork. You know, Asteroid, Dark Nebula, Oblivion, Accelerating Universe. There is a theme with these and in the lyrical content as well. Now, there are some long tracks. As I say, it is only 9 tracks in 70 minutes. The last track, Accelerating Universe, as I say, is 13.5 minutes long itself. We have Dark Nebula at 10:28. We have Forest of Legend at 10:16. The shortest track on here is actually DNA on side 4, which is still 4 minutes and 45. So these are all long tracks, and I have to say there is a lot going on this record. This is why I didn't think a couple of spins would do it justice. This is why I've held off doing this record, because I wanted to give it enough play that I could get my brain around it all. Because when you have 13.5 minutes with so much going on, so many riffs, so many changes, so many dynamic differences within the track, I wanted to sort of do it justice and, as I say, get my head around it. Vocals, as I say, no, let's go back. I haven't even told you who's in the band yet. Please forgive me there, let me tell you. So, David DiSanto is our vocalist. We have Erik Nelson on guitar. We have Frank Chin on bass and Blake Anderson on drums. Our vocalists, David DiSanto and Erik Nelson on guitar, are still with the band. The other two are not. Vektor actually had a short hiatus. I think it was about 2016 to 2020. They had a brief hiatus of about 4 years. At which point, David DiSanto and Erik Nelson came back and said, let's get the band back together. They got a new lineup, and hopefully they've got some new material coming out. I think they were looking to do a split with someone, but I'm hoping for another full-length album from these guys. But yeah, so now let's go into talking about the record itself. Now, I said about the vocals. Now, this is another one of those bands which sound very European, but are actually American. Black Breath was another one. They were the most European sounding American band I've probably ever heard. And Vektor are kind of in the same ilk. They draw a lot of influences. Now, I said about the vocals from David DiSanto. They are straight from the Schmier playbook from Destruction. If you know Destruction, one of those big German 3, maybe 4 if you throw in Tankard. Schmier has those high-pitched, so I'm not going to do it, I'd ruin it. But he has those high-pitched screams that go up. And there's that from David DiSanto in this record. You can hear the influence, not just vocally, but also musically from Destruction. I also hear a few influences from more the deaf side of things. Kind of like Atheist, I hear a little bit of sort of influence from them. Not full on Atheist, but I hear little touches of it. I hear a few bands. It is very technical thrash, but there is some heavier sort of deathy moments as well. Now, the length of these tracks, you could be forgiven to thinking, geez, 13.5 minutes, that's going to be a drag listening to that. But it's not. There's a lot going on in these tracks. Every single one of these tracks, there is a lot going on. But it speeds on by. That 70 minutes goes by pretty quick. You know, they are fantastically crafted musicians. For guys at a young age, they are pretty special. The intricacy of the soloing, the intricacy of the riffing. They have some slower passages. There's one of the tracks which I think it was Forest of Legend, which has kind of a classical guitar intro at the start. It's, you know, which is quite a mature thing really for guys of that age. it's quite a mature thing to have that classical sort of guitar intro leading in. There is so much going on each track. I mean, it changes just like that through some of these, but without it being too much. You know, for a track's Black Future, the opening track, 5 minutes long, pretty much dead on. There is a lot happening in that track, but you don't feel exhausted at the end of it. You don't feel like there's been too much, like they've tried to shove all this fantastic musical ability into 5 minutes. It's done tastefully, but at the same time, still with a lot going on in it. And I like that. This was just the start for these guys. You know, the second and the third album, really, they got even better. The bass, like, I don't want to just focus on the bass or the drums or guitar. All of them are solid musicians. There's some really nice bass work that you hear sitting under the guitars. There's some really nice dual guitar leads as well. Sort of very melodic, mellow death kind of sound to it. So they do draw away from a lot of European stuff. They draw away from even, you know, the American thrash stuff with the progressive sound, stuff like And Justice for All, which, you know, was quite a progressive thrash metal album. And you can hear the influences from that. So they draw from a lot of different places. Like I say, those Schmier vocals coming out with those high-pitched lead-offs on the vocal notes. So this is solid. This is a really solid record. The reason I haven't gone through track by track like I do on some of the others is just because there is just a lot going on each. And when you've got 13.5 minutes of track and trying to sort of sum it up a little bit, as I say, these aren't reviews. It's just me talking about what I like or maybe don't like, or the sound of this, just this product. Yeah, when you've got 13.5 minutes and it changes like every 30 seconds, it's kind of hard to put that across for you guys to actually, you know, take on board, I think. So just summing it up, it's a really good debut. Sound of the record, it's not, I wouldn't say it's hugely dynamic compared to some that I have. You can still pick out that instrumentation, especially when it's quite frantic. You can still hear everything individually. You can still pick up that bass line that's sat underneath. You can still pick out what each guitar is doing. Like I say, there is breakneck stuff, there is breakneck riffing and soloing on this record, yet the intricacies are still there. The vocals don't override everything as well. It's nicely produced, I would say, and I think it does it justice on this pressing. It doesn't leave you sort of halfway through exhausted. It doesn't leave you kind of going, you know, I just need a bit of time out from this. I'll come back to the second half later. You want to ride through those 70 minutes with them. And I think, yeah, the pressing wise, it isn't bad at all. It's definitely not the worst I have. It's not the best, but it's not the worst as well. So, Black Future by Vektor. I'm glad I kind of stumbled across these guys on a different channel. I'm glad I took the plunge into the Vektor world with their Devout Voivod influence on that artwork and the sound, as well as Destruction and Metallica and everybody else. This is a band that I'd like to hear more from. I hope they put out another full length. But if you haven't heard of them, and you like your more technical, progressive thrash, go and give Vektor a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks for checking this one out. Go and hit subscribe as always. Go and smash that like button. Go and give the bell a ring, I guess, for all notifications on the content on this channel. Plenty more vinyl coming up from my collection, as well as everything else featured on the channel. Don't forget, as always, go and buy vinyl, go and listen to vinyl, break your neck to Vektor. I'll see you soon.